Hey everybody, I'm Matt Valley. Welcome to the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the insights and analytics pros that you trust. I have a great guest today. Might be a familiar face to you. In fact, it's Brian Peterson at EMI Research Solutions, where he's been for nearly 9 years as digital marketing director. He's also the longtime host of the EMI Intellicast podcast, right? With a little
Correct.
over 300 episodes now. Wow, that's a lot. But he's a great host, I can attest. How do I know? Because I've been a guest, which is really cool. So, yeah, very excited to have Brian here. Something really interesting that I learned about him that I had no idea. I thought, hey, this is Brian. He lives in Cincinnati or outside of Cincinnati. He's a Midwestern guy, right? Not so. In fact, he grew up in Canada. He's Canadian. He's a dual citizen. Don't tell the
Yeah.
Canadian government. I don't know.
It's more
But
the US government.
U.S. government. Okay, don't tell them. All right, so it's private. It's private to this podcast, but we're going to talk about all that and more on today's show. So welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Matt, for having me. When you and I talked, you said it was weird being on this side, and I can attest to that. It is a little weird being on the guest side.
Yes, absolutely. I have to say, now that I've done this so many times, I'm more comfortable on this side. But you're such a good host. I forgot that I was on a podcast, and I felt like we were just chatting. And then it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess it's a podcast. So you do a good job of that, right?
Oh,
So
I
I,
appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll try to return the favor. Now, before we get started, I do want to send a big shout out and a thank you to our sponsor, who is Insight Sutras. They do great work. It's an outsourcing, offshoring, operations and analytics supplier that works with market research companies and consultants. Let's say you're trying to compete for this piece of business, it's just not profitable enough. You need to squeeze a little extra profit. They're a great company to hire to make sure it gets done right and gets done in a way that's going to be commercially useful for you. Sometimes, if you've got a capability, an analytics capability that you need, you don't have in house, great company to look out to. It's called Insight Sutras, insightsutras.com. Check them out. All right, Brian, let's do this, man.
Let's do this.
Here's what I know. Here's what I know. So you've been at EMI. It's been almost 9 years, right?
We're getting up to it. It'll be 9 years in October.
Yeah, super, very well trusted company within the insight space. I've certainly used EMI quite a bit over the years. But research was not your first love, as far as I know, and not even your first career. So let's hear your story. How'd you first get into the space and tell us more about what you do at EMI?
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't know is when I my first job out of college was actually managing secondary research for a couple years. So,
Ah,
and this is going to age me. It was for a Yellow Pages company.
oh, dude,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Yep. So was there for a couple years, managed their secondary, and then was in charge of their primary research, so all of their market studies. And at that point, I got introduced to Burke. So that I've known Burke
Um,
since my early 20s. I've known of them. But then I moved out of that space and was in printing and promotional products industry, and then I was in a SaaS. I was with a SaaS company for a while, and then after that was with EMI and been there for a little while. So I've kind of jumped around industries.
yeah, yeah, super cool. I have to share. So I've also worked somewhere around the Yellow Pages. So
Okay.
here's a little aside for you. From age 15 to about 23, I can't tell you how many oddball jobs I had. I had a lot. Some were better than others. One of the very worst ones was delivering phone books. That was just horrible. Show up in a parking lot, and there's these gigantic pallets filled with phone books, and then they had routes that you would bid on. Or you wouldn't bid on it. It would be like, okay, this route pays $60, this route pays 65 or whatever, and you got to grab enough books for the route, and it's up to you whether you deliver them all on time or not, and whether you make money. And I didn't. It was horrible. What a horrible job. Anyway,
Well, it's not like when you deliver them, a lot of people kept them. At least when I was there, you saw at least 60 to 70% of them just get immediately recycled or just
yes,
thrown in the trash.
that's right. And you get to somebody's house and they're there and they're like, nope, not taking it. I'm like,
Yep.
well, what am I going to do with it? So I end up taking this crap back. And anyway, it was
Yep.
horrible. I'm glad.
During my time there was when they started expanding beyond just yellow pages to what they were rebranding as local marketing. So they were starting to offer the like website building and SEO for like your mom and pop shops and stuff like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Crazy, crazy.
Yeah, this was more than 20 years ago. So,
All right. Okay, so we share something in common. So I grew up in southern Canada, right, which is Minnesota.
yep.
Actually, that's not true because the Twin Cities of Minnesota, I grew up in St. Paul. It's actually north of Toronto. So that's kind of crazy. A lot of people don't realize that. But let's hear about it. So sometime somewhere outside of Toronto, or what's
Yeah.
the deal?
So I was born in Toronto in the suburb of North York. So anybody who's listening from Toronto knows exactly where that is.
Yeah.
But then most of my time growing up was in London, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half south. It's sitting between Windsor and Toronto, and grew up in a small
Ah,
town just outside of that. And
okay.
we are talking town of like 900 people, one or two stoplights. Like you can walk from one end to the other.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, when you mentioned that Minnesota and St. Paul, I always use the fun fact, and my wife does too, is that she was born farther north than I was
Yeah.
because she was born in the UP.
Ah, interesting. Interesting.
So when I say I'm Canadian and then they say she's born farther north, they're like, Alaska?
Yeah, look,
Yeah,
as far as your wife and I are concerned, you're from the South, man.
that's right.
Too cool. So, okay, so you grew up in this tiny small town in Canada.
Yep.
So, what do? I presume hockey, fishing. What?
Yeah, there is so a lot of our town and with a lot of towns in Canada, it revolves around hockey. So played that all growing up, like pretty much age 4 or 5, you're learning how to skate, and then you are playing hockey from that point on, as I did. When I say my town was only 900 people, one of the few things it did have was an arena. Where did it have a restaurant you could eat at? No. Did it have an arena? You bet.
Yeah.
So, and
Nice.
during winter time, that is some of where you spent a lot of time. So whether you were going for practice or games, and then there you'd go with your friends for open skate. Like
Yeah.
that was a lot of the time around there growing up.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I played baseball and basketball growing up, but I had plenty. But I played a lot of boot hockey, a lot of pond hockey, like you did. But I just wasn't down with the like 3 a.m. times that people had to schedule the arena to do hockey practices. That's like, no thanks.
Imagine a 12-year-old having to go for 4 a.m. practice on a Sunday. But prior to moving, that was the last year I played, and that was that. And that's because the rink you're booked from that time until 11
Yeah,
o'clock at night. There's no gaps.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
So too cool, too cool. Excellent. So I'm curious because you have young children in Ohio.
Yes.
So is it like, hey, this is the way I grew up right here in Canada, so it looks exactly the same, or how much you contrast how you're parenting now?
I would say it is different parenting to them. We are much closer to, there's more people in my town where I
Yeah,
live now than where I
right.
grew up. Um, and both my kids play, both do sports and other activities that I never had any interest in. So you and I have talked about previously. My son is taking drum lessons. I don't know where he's actually a pretty good drummer at this point. He's been in lessons for about 2 months, has some good rhythm, but I have no idea where he has gotten his musical talent because I have none. Zero. My daughter's playing the viola. Already, it's only done a few lessons in, already can play it without the screeching. Like, all right, where did these two get musical talent that I didn't? The other piece behind that is knowing more, getting it. They are just starting to learn to skate now, which
Right.
which really makes me feel warm in my heart because my
Yeah,
son has said, I want to try hockey now. So I'm like, okay, but we got to learn how to skate first because
yeah,
you can't just start playing, go out there one day. All right, I got all the equipment on. Let's go play because it's not like you're playing basketball where, okay, I might need to learn how to dribble, but you already know how to walk and run. The skating's got to
yeah.
get done first. So he is in the process of learning how to skate. So, and then we have a hockey goal set up in the basement. We'll go downstairs and shoot on.
Yeah, yeah, super cool. One last point on hockey
Yeah.
because of this unique perspective. Growing up in Minnesota, everybody played hockey in the neighborhood, right? And we had the Minnesota North Stars, right? So
Yep.
now I'm showing my age. So Minnesota was a hockey state, and then Norm Green, curse that man. He took the North Stars out of Minnesota and brought them to Dallas, the Dallas Stars. Of course, I
Yep.
live in Dallas now. Nobody plays hockey around here, but oh my God, are they hockey crazy for the NHL and the Dallas Stars?
Well,
I wish it was like that when I was in Minnesota.
isn't that because a lot of people aren't necessarily born in Dallas? Like it's much
Oh,
more of a transient town.
totally.
Like people come from other places to live in Dallas.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally true. I would say the majority of people that I meet down here now, especially professionally, are not from here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, kind of like that. Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk research again, Brian. You're one of the leading voices I've followed when it comes to understanding sampling, where things are headed that way, and more broadly in the inside space. So I'm curious to know as you're sitting here right now, we're all dealing with all kinds of change and new technology and all that stuff. What does the future look like? Big, broad question. What do you see in the future for the space?
Yeah. Um, really looking at broad future, I think you're going to see some more balance than maybe we've seen in the last year or so. We've seen, I mean, let's be honest, everyone knows there's been major disruption. You have AI, whether it's synthetic data, like digital twins, or even just integrating AI into processes. Well, AI isn't just disrupted insights. It's everywhere. It's in every different industry. But
Sure.
I think what we're going to start to see in the next year or so is that kind of pendulum swing back. I feel like I've been in this industry long enough to see these pendulum swings.
Yep.
You see, oh, DIY tools. All right, everyone needs a DIY tool. And then it swings back. Like, oh, okay, now we don't. And then it comes to that middle point where okay, now it's just another tool in the toolbox. And I think that's what we're going to see with AI. It's going to bring some components where it's integrated into processes to make things a little bit faster or more
Yeah.
efficient. And even on the synthetic and digital twin side, where I don't think it's quite there yet, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be able to be used for everything, but it's going to find its niche of where it is going to be useful for. And it is just going to be another tool in the toolbox. I think that's
Yeah.
where we're going to go in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, right? Because AI is now at a point everybody can jump in and be productive with it. So
Hmm.
with Claude or whatever tool you choose, right? You can start doing stuff. Everybody can, but at some point, but at the same time, the companies that are out there are all integrating AI into their solutions. And so for anything you want to do, like there's a question of, hey, I can spend the time and figure out how to do this myself, or wow, this company has already kind of built this. So I just want to jump on to what they're doing, right?
Right. Yep.
And so at some point, like these solutions become so complex that it's not so easy to just say, oh, hey, I'm just gonna do this on my own, right? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but I feel like it's part of the pendulum swing that all of a sudden it's going to move away from doing
It's
all this AI
yeah.
stuff yourself.
Well, it's not going to be a differentiator anymore. It's going to get to a point where, like right now, you can use it. Oh, I have AI integrated to do this, or it's AI powered. At some point, that's going to become a table stake. Like you have to have that, and it's no longer going to be that differentiator.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Now, one other question on this, because you mentioned synthetic data, digital twins. I know you've done a lot of work um, looking into those kinds of solutions. You mentioned that it's maybe not ready for prime time yet. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so we actually have done several tests over the last couple of years. Big one we publish in our annual report called the Sample Landscape, and we tested several different vendors and mostly on the digital twin component. So saying, hey, all right, make it look exactly like my audience. And when
Yeah,
we tested it, we gave them lots of training. We gave everybody the same training data. We gave them the questionnaire that it was going to be asked. So essentially, they had an open book test. Like, these are the questions you're going to get asked. This is the data you need to copy. And none of it was anywhere close to human data. It
yeah,
was, you could tell that it was done program. You could tell it was more mathematics because everything's skewed to the middle, to the mean. You're looking at it, you lose all the extremes, which for the market research professional like you know that's where you're going to gather the most data is those people that are either really bad, really angry, or really happy. That's the two kind of extremes. The middle isn't as helpful.
sure, sure, sure.
So, and in seeing that, it just couldn't get there. I mean, we've seen some improvements where you can get like, hey, it's great for maybe some top line data, but as soon as you try to go down to that next level, it starts to break care. It almost breaks its persona or doesn't follow what it's supposed to do. Like it
Sure.
starts to look odd. Like you're looking like that can't be right. It's off.
Right, right. Hey, can I ask you a question? Because this
Yeah.
is there's something I've always thought EMI as sitting a little bit apart from a lot of the companies that are in the space, like sample providers, right? And
Hmm.
I just got a message from someone. I thought this wasn't happening anymore, but it is from someone saying, "Oh, hey, my friends and I we're starting a sample company, so let me know if you need a quote." Right? Just the days where you just, hey, we're just going to build a panel and we're going to sell it, and no
Yeah.
sort of concern for anything. So the thing I've always appreciated about EMI is every time I intersect with EMI, you're doing all of this work to explore the latest trends, a lot of research on research, and you mentioned your annual report. This has got to be, a very conscious part of your strategy, but I'm just curious to hear from your perspective what that's all about.
It is. So it is a very conscious component of our strategy. So when I started, they had already been doing research on research for about 4 or 5 years, but it
Right.
was kind of held to the vest internal. It would get shown in client presentations and it was talk like,
Sure.
what are we, why are we keeping this such a secret? Like we
Yeah.
can blind what's in there and get this out. So that was kind of the decision. We presented the decision, went out with that, and that first sample landscape report, which kind of was the results of the research on research we were doing, was that test
Yeah.
one, and it was a we're going to see if our theory works, and it was a resounding success. Like
Yeah.
200 plus downloads. It was the biggest campaign we had done. And now
Yeah.
we've been doing it every year and it's grown every year. And we've kind of adjusted. It used to just show how panels change over time and how they're different, but it's evolved into more tracking. There's that as well, but also the trends that are going on, whether it's data quality, synthetic, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, outside looking in, it's great that you share it, right? It makes us all smarter.
Mhm.
So I applaud that strategy for sure.
Thank you.
So question for you now. So I think about you as a content producer, right? So you're adding to the corpus of
Yep.
what's out there. You're contributing to the conversation all the time. But of course, you are also consuming media that is informing your perspective,
Hmm.
or at least giving you time to decompress. So another big, broad question for you. So I'm curious about your media diet for insight, inspiration, or enjoyment. What is earning your time?
Oh, let's go enjoyment because that is probably the smallest component. Um, I like to joke I am in my pop culture blind spot right now because my children and their age, I don't have a lot of free time.
That's funny.
But what I do, I like podcasts, and honestly, I was listening to one before we jumped on here. I was trying to catch up on all my hockey news, so I have one I
Yeah.
like to listen to. called 32 Thoughts. It gives insights for all the different NHL teams. It's my one I like to listen to just to stay up on that stuff. I also listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't get to watch as much TV anymore, so I like to listen to audiobooks, whether it's driving, doing chores around here, anything like
Yeah.
that. That's where I can get to that piece because there are times I love to read, but the time factor of sitting down and just reading a book, I don't necessarily have as much as I want. So this allows me to get to consume the novels I want,
Yeah.
but maybe it while I get to other things done. That would
Yeah.
probably be the majority of my media consumption at this point.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. That's very familiar, right? So that's
Yep.
helped a lot of answers on this podcast. Okay, but now we're talking, books and all, and that's
Yep.
great. Right? I read a lot too. But
But
you know what? What this is really about is rock and roll, man.
I know, I know.
This is a rock and roll research podcast. You cannot get off this easy without this question. So I hope you maybe given it a think, Brian.
I
Just
have spent some serious time thinking about this.
good, good. Okay, so you're stranded on a desert island. Maybe it's, somewhere off the coast of Canada, somewhere. Maybe it's really cold. I don't know. But okay, you're stranded on a desert island. You have three albums of your choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are
All right. Well, I'll give a little bit of my thought process behind this. One, I don't listen to a lot of albums through.
they? Sure, sure.
With streaming music now, it's I just find it's rare that I get to listen to an entire album. So that was my starting point. Like, all right, well, which ones have I actively gone out to find and listen to?
Yeah, yeah,
So my first one, while not rock and roll, is The Weeknd, Beauty Behind the Madness, his second album.
yeah. Okay, okay, yeah.
That
Very.
one is my favorite of his of all the ones he's done.
Yeah.
It's just one you can listen from start to finish, and it doesn't get old. There
I
are
mean, pretty much everything on
yeah,
that album is a hit song, right? So.
at least half of them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So all killer, no filler, all bangers, man.
that's right.
Cool. All right. The Weekend. That's the first one.
All right, second one. This is where you'll get your rock and roll. And this is going to be volumes 1 and 2 of Five Finger Death Punch, The Wrong Side of Heaven and the Righteous Side of Hell.
Yes, metal. I knew
Yes,
there was some metal in there, Brian.
yes, that is my. I used to be a much more of a runner than I am now. My knees can't take it anymore. But that was those are my go-to albums
Yeah.
playing on my iPod, iPhone, whatever, when I'm running, because it can just helps me zone out for what I'm doing. And then back when that came out, I was training for a marathon. So I could be listening to that for hours and it just helped me zone out while I was running.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Cool, cool.
And then finally, and this was a debatable, it was two different ones from the same band, Fallout Boy, but I went with Save Rock and Roll.
Yeah, okay, cool, cool.
So
Yeah.
with that one, it just if you've seen ever watched the music videos, the music video is almost one continuous one for each song. It all ties into each other, but also as you're listening to that, again, there are some ones that maybe didn't become hits or weren't released as singles, but that are really good. And it has some pretty cool collaborations in there. Like one of the end ones has Elton John in it. Like
Yeah.
you don't necessarily think Fall Out Boy, yep, Elton John's going to be on this one.
That, you know what? Those are really interesting choices. So you've got you've got pop, you've got metal, and then you got emo. So
Yep.
you got it all in there, sort of capsulated in terms of a point in time. I like
Hmm.
it. I like it. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
There will never be country though. I hate country. And people who know me know that.
Come on, man. I play in a country band,
I'm
right?
sorry. I'm sorry. Too twangy. I can't stand it.
I get it. I get it. All right. Awesome. Cool, Brian. I'm so glad we had a chance to have this chat. I know we've talked a lot of all kinds of stuff about research, where it's headed, a lot of AI, a lot of sample,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. But we've never had a chance to really dig into who is Brian Peterson. So I'm really glad to have the chance to do that. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for being a guest. I'm sure I'll
Thanks for
talk.
having me.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. Rock and roll, man.